In 978, the King of England, Edward the Martyr, was suddenly assassinated and the throne passed to his younger brother, Æthelred. They were both the sons of King Edgar the Peaceful, who had a prosperous reign with no wars and a successful monastic reform movement, which saw English cultural flourishing. Æthelred's name comes from the Old English words Æthel, meaning noble, and Reid, meaning counsel, so together it means well advised. The mocking epithet that he was given, the Unready, comes from that same word reid, with unreid meaning poorly advised. The epithet was given in response to the disastrous reign that he had. He came to the throne having not yet reached adulthood, and therefore was put under a regency for several years. He finally began to rule independently in 984, and he used his royal power to push back against the still ongoing monastic reform movement. Meanwhile, Danish Vikings relentlessly raided England in the 980s and 990s, ending the peaceful period that the country had been enjoying. The raids were not only destructive and humiliating, but very expensive too, since the Vikings repeatedly demanded payments of Danegeld to leave England. In 991, the English met the Vikings in the Battle of Maldon and were badly defeated, forcing them to make a large payment. The attacks intensified from that point forward, and Æthelred reversed his opposition to the monasteries in an attempt to gain divine favour. A major attack came in 994 as a Viking force led by Sweyn Forkbeard, the King of Denmark, and Olaf Tryggvason attacked the southeast. Another huge Danegeld payment was made by Æthelred for peace, and the Vikings left, with Olaf Tryggvason going on to become the King of Norway the following year. Viking raids continued through the 990s and into the beginning of the second millennium AD. King Æthelred made an alliance with Richard II of Normandy in the year 1002. Normandy itself only coming into existence as a duchy less than a century prior as a result of Viking settlement of northern France. As part of the agreement, Richard gave his daughter Emma in marriage to Æthelred. That same year, in November, fearing treason by England's significantly large Danish population, who had settled in England following the 865 Viking invasion of the Anglo-Saxon kingdoms, King Æthelred ordered the St. Brice's Day massacre, slaughtering Danes throughout the country. Sweyn Forkbeard, who had by this point established control over Norway, invaded England again in 1003. He rampaged around the country until a famine struck in 1005, forcing Sweyn to return to Denmark. He returned the following year and again ravaged England, and Æthelred made yet another enormous payment. In an attempt to resist the Vikings, Æthelred ordered the construction of an English fleet. However, when the fleet was assembled, internal divisions soon destroyed it, leaving England vulnerable to another invasion. That invasion came in 1009, when a Danish Viking leader called Thorkel the Tall arrived. Thorkel and his men remained in England for years until they killed the Archbishop of Canterbury, Aelfheah, in 1012, causing Thorkel to defect to the English side in exchange for a Danegeld payment. In the summer of that year, Sweyn Forkbeard launched a fresh invasion of England with the aim of fully conquering it. Accompanying him was his son, Cnut. He sailed up the Humber estuary with a massive force, causing the North and the East Midlands to surrender to him without a fight. From there he invaded the south, devastating the land to try and force a surrender, but Æthelred continued to resist and stayed in London. Sweyn attempted to take London but was repulsed, so he marched to the southwest and captured it. Finally, that triggered London to surrender, and Æthelred was forced to flee to Normandy. Sweyn Forkbeard was crowned King of England on Christmas Day of 1013. As a Danish king, he established Gainsborough, Lincolnshire as his capital rather than London, settling in the land that was formerly the Danelaw and thus was more populated by Danes. However, Sweyn died shortly after becoming king in February 1014. Cnut claimed the throne and was supported by the Danish invaders, while the English nobility backed Æthelred, who returned from Normandy to reclaim his throne. Æthelred assembled an army and marched toward Cnut, who fled to Denmark to gather reinforcements. Æthelred re-established himself in England and began to punish the nobles in the North and East Midlands for their quick submission to Sweyn in 1013. This prompted his son, Edmund, to revolt against him, establishing himself as a rival king in the north. Cnut returned with an army in 1015 and invaded England. He marched to London, where Æthelred was, and besieged the city. One of Æthelred's advisors, Striona, defected to Cnut's side. Meanwhile, Olaf Haraldsson consolidated power in Norway, unifying it into one kingdom with himself as king. In April 1016, Æthelred died, leaving Edmund as sole king of the English. Edmund stubbornly resisted Cnut, earning his epithet Ironside. He defeated Cnut in battle in Somerset, and they then fought another battle that was inconclusive. Striona had claimed his allegiance and was now with Edmund, but he continued to act treacherously against the English side. Edmund Ironside then retook London and won a follow-up victory against the Danes. However, when Edmund returned to London, Cnut once again besieged the city, and they fought for a final time at the Battle of Assendun. Striona, who had claimed he was back on Edmund's side, defected to Cnut and took his army with him at a critical moment, causing Edmund to lose the battle. Cnut and Edmund agreed to divide the kingdom between themselves, with Edmund taking the land south of the River Thames and Cnut taking everything else. Edmund was suddenly assassinated in November 1016, leaving Cnut as sole king. Cnut's reign began with the elimination of his enemies and rivals. He killed numerous nobles, and the sons of Æthelred and Edmund fled England. Æthelred's surviving son Eadwig was initially forbidden from the kingdom by Cnut, but he was then allowed back in the next year, only to be killed shortly after. In 1017, Cnut married Æthelred's widow, Emma of Normandy, strengthening his position in the wider region. He taxed the country to pay off his army in 1018, and most of them returned home. In the same year, his younger brother, King Harald II of Denmark, died, and Cnut became king of Denmark. Cnut the Great reformed England administratively, creating the new title of Earl from the Old Norse title Jarl. England was divided between 4 earls, one for each of the 4 Anglo-Saxon kingdoms that England came from. Eric Håkonsson was appointed as Earl of Northumbria, Striona was appointed as Earl of Mercia, Thorkel the Tall was appointed as Earl of East Anglia, and Cnut himself served as Earl of Wessex. It wasn't long before Cnut had Striona executed and banished Thorkel the Tall from England. He gave up his position as Earl of Wessex and gave the title to a prominent English noble called Godwin. Cnut remained based in England, but was steadfast to attend to affairs to the east, most notably to defend his vulnerable hold on Denmark. King Olaf Haraldsson attempted to invade Denmark, but was defeated by Cnut's forces in the Battle of Helgeir in 1026. Cnut was devout in his Catholic faith, providing support to the English Church and going on pilgrimage to Rome in 1027. Next, he moved to conquer Norway. In 1028, he arrived with a large fleet and bribed much of Norway's nobility to turn on King Olaf. Olaf was overthrown and forced to flee, allowing Cnut to establish himself as King of Norway. Olaf returned with an army and attempted to reclaim Norway in 1030, but he was defeated and killed. Now Cnut firmly controlled England, Denmark, and Norway. Historians call his rule of these 3 kingdoms the North Sea Empire, though they never merged into a single nation-state. 1031 saw Cnut use his naval and land forces to pressure 3 northern kings to submit to him: Malcolm II of Alba, Macbeth of Moray, and Eomark, who dominated the Irish Sea. In 1035, Norway rebelled against Cnut and placed Magnus the Good, son of Olaf Haraldsson, on the throne. Cnut died later that year. Harthacnut, Cnut's son with Emma of Normandy, was supposed to take the throne of England, but he went to Denmark upon his father's death to secure control of it. Meanwhile, Cnut's son with his first wife, Elgifu, Harald Harefoot, established himself as regent over England while Harthacnut was away. Harold sought to be crowned king officially, but he was prevented by opposition from Earl Godwin and the Archbishop of Canterbury. In 1036, the sons of Æthelred the Unready, Alfred and Edward, returned from exile in Normandy and came to England. They were captured by Earl Godwin and Alfred was killed, while Edward survived and went back to Normandy. With some political maneuvering, Harold's support built up until he was finally crowned King of England in 1037, causing Emma of Normandy to flee the country. Harthacnut did not drop his claim to the English throne while he was in Denmark, and a few years later he made preparations to invade England in 1040. Before the invasion was launched, Harald Harefoot died, so Harthacnut was unopposed when he arrived. Harthacnut reached England with his fleet and became king, allowing Emma of Normandy to return from exile. Angry at his deceased half-brother, he dug up the body of Harald Harefoot and had it beheaded. In order to pay off his fleet, Harthacnut raised taxes heavily, causing a rebellion to break out in Worcester. The rebellion was crushed and Harthacnut allowed his men to harry Worcester, devastating it. Not long into his reign, Harthacnut, who was childless, called Edward the son of Æthelred out of exile in Normandy and back to England, where he was made heir to the throne. Harthacnut died in 1042 and was succeeded by Edward, known as Edward the Confessor, returning England to Anglo-Saxon rule.